And we were having with Marlon a breakfast on the floor of the flat. There was a baguette and there was butter, and we looked at each other, and without saying anything, we knew what we wanted.
It was the scene that made a movie infamous and changed a young actress's life forever. A moment captured on celluloid that would go down in history, not for its artistry, but for the pain it caused behind the camera. And the most disturbing part? It wasn't even in the script. This is the dark truth behind Last Tango in Paris, the film that shocked the world, and the butter scene that left Maria Schneider traumatized for life. In 1972, Last Tango in Paris premiered at the New York Film Festival to gasps, praise, protests, and moral outrage, all at once. Directed by the Italian auteur Bernardo Bertolucci, and starring the magnetic yet mercurial Marlon Brando alongside then 19-year-old newcomer Maria Schneider, the film was immediately hailed as a groundbreaking piece of cinema. Critics like Pauline Kael compared it to the premiere of Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring, a raw, brutal, transgressive work that would, in her words, alter the face of an art form. But behind the applause and controversy was something far more disturbing, especially for its young lead. The plot of Last Tango in Paris is stripped down, both literally and narratively. Brando plays Paul, a middle-aged American reeling from the suicide of his wife, aimlessly roaming the streets of Paris. Schneider plays Jeanne, a free-spirited Parisian girl on the verge of marriage. The two strangers meet while apartment hunting, and with barely a word, embark on a strange, nameless, and anonymous sexual relationship, agreeing to meet regularly in the empty apartment without sharing identities. No names, no pasts, no boundaries, and for Bertolucci, no limits. The film is drenched in themes of grief, rage, obsession, and control. But its most iconic and notorious moment is what came to be known as the butter scene, a disturbing encounter in which Brando's character uses a stick of butter as a lubricant to Jeanne. The camera lingers, Schneider cries, the moment is raw, too raw, and there's a reason for that. Maria Schneider didn't know it was going to happen. She wasn't informed. She wasn't asked. She wasn't even acting. That single scene was improvised the day of the shoot by Brando and Bertolucci, and Schneider would later reveal she was told about it moments before the camera rolled. "They only told me just before we had to film the scene," she said in a 2007 interview. "I was so angry. I should have called my agent or had my lawyer come to the set, because you can't force someone to do something that isn't in the script. But I didn't know that. I was too young." During the shoot, Schneider cried real tears. "I felt humiliated, and to be honest, I felt a little, both by Marlon and by Bertolucci." The director later confirmed this in a 2013 interview, stating he didn't tell her about the use of butter because I wanted her reaction as a girl, not as an actress. Let that sink in. Bertolucci wanted real humiliation. He orchestrated real emotional distress, and he captured it on camera. What's more, Brando, who was 48 at the time, never consoled her. There was no apology, no second take. Just the haunting reality of a young woman who had been blindsided, her breakdown immortalized in cinematic history. The fallout for Maria Schneider was lifelong. Though she became a global name overnight, her career was haunted by the film's shadow. She was typecast, dismissed, misunderstood. In interviews, she described the experience as a trauma that derailed her life, leading to substance abuse and mental health struggles. "It was my life's only regret," she later said. "It ruined my life." Schneider's personal struggles were no tabloid invention. In the aftermath of Last Tango, she admitted to experimenting with heroin, cocaine, and marijuana, and giving wildly contradictory interviews to deal with the media circus. People thought I was just like my character, she once said. They saw me as that sexy bimbo. But that wasn't me. It made me go mad. And while Brando and Bertolucci walked away with critical acclaim and millions in profits, Brando reportedly earned $3 million. Schneider was paid just $4,000. No royalties, no glory. Just trauma. The production itself was a chaotic mess of blurred lines. Brando, known for his disdain for traditional acting, refused to memorize his lines. He improvised most of his dialogue and insisted on cue cards hidden throughout the set. At one point, he even asked if lines could be written on Schneider's body, an idea Bertolucci thankfully refused. Brando later admitted that the film made him feel manipulated and stating in his memoir that he would never again allow himself to be so vulnerable on screen. Even the genesis of the film was personal and problematic. Bertolucci conceived the story based on a fantasy. He once dreamed of seeing a nameless woman on the street and having sex with her without ever knowing her name. That fantasy became the film. And Maria Schneider became the unwilling muse of a director chasing his own desires under the guise of cinematic truth. Originally, Bertolucci wanted Dominique Sanda and Jean-Louis Trintignant in the lead roles, but Sanda became pregnant and Trintignant passed. Brando, hot off the success of The Godfather, stepped in. His presence brought legitimacy and box office power. The film became the seventh highest grossing movie of 1973 in the U.S., raking in $36 million. But it was banned in countries around the world, from Chile to South Korea to Italy, where Bertolucci was convicted of obscenity and stripped of his civil rights for 5 years. Authorities seized all copies of the film and ordered them destroyed, though some survived. And yet, critics couldn't look away. Pauline Kael called it the most powerfully erotic movie ever made. Roger Ebert declared it one of the great emotional experiences of our time. Directors like Robert Altman and Martin Scorsese hailed it as a triumph, but not everyone was so enchanted. Feminist groups condemned it, governments banned it, and Maria Schneider suffered in silence. Only decades later did the truth fully come to light, thanks in part to resurfaced interviews and growing outrage in the Me Too era. In 2016, a clip of Bertolucci's confession reignited global fury. Actresses like Jessica Chastain publicly denounced the film, stating, "To all the people that love this film, you're watching a 19-year-old get raped by a 48-year-old man. The director planned her attack." The legacy of Last Tango in Paris is a complicated one. It remains a visually arresting film shot with painterly influence by cinematographer Vittorio Storaro and scored with sensual jazz by Gato Barbieri. Its atmosphere is moody, melancholic, and hypnotic. But under that artful veneer is a harsh, ugly truth, that a young actress was sacrificed on the altar of so-called cinematic realism. In 2024, that truth got a voice of its own. Being Maria, a biopic based on Schneider's life and the making of Last Tango, premiered at Cannes, starring Anna Maria Bartolomei as Maria and Matt Dillon as Brando. The film aimed to reclaim Schneider's narrative and show the trauma from her perspective, a powerful rebuttal to decades of silence. And what about the infamous butter scene? This time, it was filmed with an intimacy coordinator. It had rehearsals. It had consent. It had dignity. Everything Schneider was denied in 1972. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Last Tango in Paris deserves its place in cinema history? Or should films with such traumatic legacies be reevaluated in light of how they were made? Let us know in the comments.